when I was a kid in the late 1900s. Thanks for that classification. I used to love watching cartoons on a Saturday morning, things like X-Men, Batman, Spider-Man. There was something very special about those cartoons among many others. As an adult, I try and continue that trend, have watched some great new shows, including Star Trek Lower Decks. There's a new series of Tron, Pacific Rim. And not that long ago, I was recommended to watch Invincible, which is something that we then barreled through and kind of binge watched. It's incredible. Definitely not for kids. It's very visceral. You've probably already seen it. Of course, Invincible was created by Robert Kirkman, and he originally created a comic book. The same happened with Walking Dead, where the Walking Dead comic book became this TV show, and then multiple other products, including a role-playing game by Free League called The Walking Dead Universe. Yes, I know this is still in shrink, don't judge me. Obviously, I have the PDFs, and it's incredible, and is really about the human condition more than zombies, just like the show and the comic book before it. Free League have decided not only to create The Walking Dead as a role-playing game, but also Invincible, and I'm intrigued to understand how that even works. What does it mean for us? It's a year zero engine game, so you're going to grab a whole load of D6 dice and throw them at the table, hoping to win, which is always a challenge with year zero. How is this going to happen? What is different? What are the inspirations? What's the tone going to be like? Let's talk to Tomas Härenstam. Really excited that he's here yet again. So grab your dice. If you are a fan, please hit like and consider subscribing and all that jazz. But for now, yeah, let's just roll those dice and get going, shall we? Welcome back with Devious Dungeons, Foreboding Forest, and the Coolest Cats. My name is Phil, and this is The Dark Orb. Tomas,
Hello.
hey,
Hi.
how are you?
Good, good, good. Doing well. How are you doing?
I am brilliant. I'm brilliant. It's quite nice. We have blue skies outside, which is unusual.
Yeah.
Yesterday, this time, it was not blue. It was very grey and raining. So it feels like a good day.
All right.
Congratulations on an already very successful Invincible. From what I can see at time of recording, we're looking at almost 3 million crowns. That's 220 grand in English money.
Yeah.
You're doing all right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's doing pretty well.
yeah.
Thank you.
Two
Yeah.
and a half thousand backers.
Yeah.
By the time this goes out, I expect this will have doubled. So, yeah, rock and
Oh,
roll.
yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Yeah.
Minimum. Obviously, this is going to be record breaking. It should always be record breaking.
We'll see how it goes. But yeah. Yeah.
Ah, so yeah, I mean, I mentioned in the kind of the roll up to it that you guys, I mean, you've done a few licensed products over the last sort of 5 years or so. And
Yeah.
The Walking Dead was a little bit of a surprise for me as well,
Hmm.
at least. But obviously, you have that thread running with Mr. Kirkman's amazing IPs, and I can imagine there's some licensing correlations there. But how did you come to the decision to do Invincible, and what is Invincible?
Right. Yeah. I mean, actually, it was more the connection to The Walking Dead is probably a bit weaker than you might think. There is some connection, but
Hmm.
not that strongly, because actually The Walking Dead is a different license with a different licensor. It's
Oh,
that
interesting.
license is actually through the TV show, so it's with AMC, whereas
Yeah,
yeah, Invincible is with Skybound, who publishes the Invincible comic and also the
yeah,
Walking Dead comic. So anyway, wow. I mean, I think there are two main reasons we're doing this. One is I always wanted to do a superhero RPG
hmm
sooner or later. That
hmm
just I had to do that sometime. One of my very first RPGs ever. The first one actually that was not in Swedish when I was like 11 or 12, when I discovered there were actually uh, or role playing games from the UK and
yeah.
America that in these weird hobby stores. Before then, I had only seen RPGs in Swedish in toy stores, because
Yeah.
you could find them in toy stores, but of course they only had the very few Swedish ones. So the first
Yes.
time I actually stepped into a hobby store and was completely blown away. And I was a big comic book reader fan back then as well. And then I saw the first Marvel, the superheroes by TSR, and I was like,
Yeah.
my God, there's a role-playing game about Marvel heroes. So I got that, and that was like my first non-Swedish RPG, and I always loved that game, and I still think it holds up fairly well. We actually played it a couple of months ago for like research, or just part research, part fun. And I always wanted to do a superhero RPG at some point. So that was always sort of in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
And then the other component that happened is that Adam Bradford, who is the co-writer of the game, he's a fan, it seems, of Free League games in the Year Zero engine, and he's a huge comic book fan, and he's
Good.
a huge Invincible fan. So we met for other reasons at Gen Con a couple of years ago and started talking, and then it was actually his idea to do Invincible specifically. I was not that familiar with it. I'd heard about it, but I didn't really know much about it. This was before the animated TV show premiered, so
Right.
it's a while back. But then, then we started talking, and this turned out to be, sounded like a good idea, and it helped that we actually had a partnership with Skybound, who's the comic book publisher, not through The Walking Dead, but through the Electric State, because
Yeah.
Skybound publishes Simon Stålenhag's books, or some of them in English.
Yeah.
So we actually already knew them at Skybound, and they're good people, and we fairly quickly could talk to them, me and Adam, and brought it together, and that's sort of where the whole thing started, and just went from there.
That's amazing. And in fact, one of our patrons did ask the question quite directly. I'm just going to read this verbatim, actually. So the character attributes are similar to the old Marvel phase rip system. Was that game an influence for Invincible?
Yes, I guess
sounds like it very much was.
very, very quick and straight answer. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's quite an interesting. I mean, Invincible is as a series, if you haven't seen it and you're presuming it's just like every other kind of troop superhero adventure, I think it probably is closer to something like The Boys in tone than maybe Justice League. But it is very much its own setting. How did you find that when you're trying to create a role-playing game that is for an entire table and not just necessarily about one individual character, and what's the approach that you've taken this for players?
Yeah, I mean, I think in many ways, even though this game we're designing it so that you can actually use it to play in other worlds as well if you want to. You don't have to play in the Invincible universe. You could use this as a toolbox to play in any world that you want.
Yeah.
But yes, of course, the setting focus is Invincible, and the tone, like you say, is not quite the same. It's bloodier, more violent than your average superhero books, and it turns some of the tropes on its head. Things happen that you don't normally see in superhero books, but still, I think it's at its heart, it's still a superhero story and a superhero tale. I think it doesn't go quite to where The Boys goes, because that really there. I mean, pretty much all the superheroes are the enemies. So and you're, I mean, which is cool in its own way, but this is not quite that. This is still a superhero setting where the superheroes are still who you will identify with and play. So I think in that sense, it's sort of on more traditional superhero game, if you will. We wanted to make a superhero game where I actually play superheroes. I think something like The Boys, the superheroes would have been like the monster that you fight.
Absolutely.
Here it's you're still the superhero, and you still have those choices. But yeah, there's a lot that the visceral violence that comes into it, and that of course affects the game design. Also, the strong focus on like social scenes and character interactions, which is very strong and Invincible, is something that we've built into this game as well, as a key thing. And I think it's actually, even though of course the game and the comic is named after one character, I actually think this world is easier to approach more openly and to create your own characters in, because compared to like Marvel or something where you have like so many so famous characters, they're all over, you can't really get around Wolverine and whoever else. It's harder, I think, at least for me, to imagine creating my own character in the Marvel universe, because it feels like it's already full. There's enough. Whereas Invincible, yes, you have Invincible and you have some other characters, but it's not, there's more room to create your own things in Invincible than in Marvel or DC. So I think it's actually a better fit for an RPG.
I completely agree with you. So, from a position of from both the starter set and from the core book, and I presume that there will be one or two little scenarios in the core book.
Yeah.
Are your players? Is it intended that you're playing really as original characters, or is it really set up to play with pregens that are from the comic book universe?
I mean, I think primarily when playing the full game, I think the main, you can do both, but the main idea is that you will create your own team of your own superheroes.
Yeah.
That is like that's the focus. That's the main focus. But then it's something like the starter set and the quick start that we have now for download. There you have pre-generated characters, and those
Right.
are from the comic book because that just made sense rather than
Amazing.
creating new pregens. That, I mean, the sense these characters that are in the comic and the animated show exist. When you want to have pregens, it made sense to use those characters. But in the full game, and when we publish adventures further on, most of them will be designed to be played with any team of superheroes that you like, and the idea is that you will most likely create your own superheroes to play.
That's cool. And I guess the challenge that you might have, or one might have, when building an RPG like this, is that you are likely to get some new players who have not played a role-playing game before. So particularly with the starter set, when you're starting with characters that hopefully they'll know quite well and love, uh, was it a consideration that maybe that will be a much lower barrier to entry for those players?
Yeah, that's part of it. Sure, I mean, it's probably easier if you're completely new to this thing but you maybe be familiar with the comic or the animated show. Then yeah, sure, it can help. Or even if you are an experienced RPG player, just if you want to try out this game, it can be easier to use one of those pre-generated characters. Yeah,
Yeah, I love pre-gens. Anyway, just for any game, it's just
yeah,
nice to have the challenge, particularly if you're thrown a pre-gen that is the opposite to what you would normally play, and then you have
yeah.
to embody someone else, and I find that very freeing, very liberating. So,
Especially for like shorter, I mean, one shots and things,
yeah,
having pre-gens super helpful, and they can also serve as templates and examples and inspiration to create your own characters too.
yeah, you can pick something from here and something from there,
Yeah,
and bring it all
yeah.
together. How do you blend the difference, the contrast in tones that you have in the comic and the TV show into the RPG, and make that feel like it's one cohesive, coherent thing? Because as you mentioned earlier, I mean, you have quite a lot of family drama. You have this kind of visceral uh, uh, action, sort of combat. Um, it's quite brutal and quite ruthless, but in every tone is like pushed to the maximum level. How can you capture that in a role-playing game?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely part of the challenge and part of the fun. I mean, we really tried. I mean, when it comes to like combat and the combat rules, we tried to up the stakes and turn the dials up,
Yeah,
both in terms of the range of your attribute levels. The way critical damage works is a key thing. Not only are they quite bloody to sort of capture that, but it's also something that we tried to do is that you when you go down to zero health and you're broken the first time, you can fairly easily get back up and keep fighting. But if you do that, if you suffer another critical hit, which you do if you go down to zero health again, that one is going to be worse than the first one. And then you can actually get up a second time,
yeah,
fight again, but then if you get knocked down, you'll get an even worse critical. So you have this risk reward thing, which I think also sort of what you see in the comic and the animated show is that
definitely.
you keep fighting and keep fighting, but it just gets worse. And when you think you can't get any worse, they get
And
up
it
and
does.
keep fighting, and they're
Yeah,
they just it gets worse.
it's so
And
true.
that's sort of something that really built into the way damage and critical injuries work in the game as well.
Amazing. And you've got things like the superpowers that you have for your
Yeah.
characters. Was it a challenge to try and balance those?
Yeah, for sure. I think that is the biggest challenge maybe of any superhero RPG is the powers and how to balance them, how to, because in a comic book or an animated cartoon show, you can sort of do what you want with these powers, but it's very hard in an RPG. You have to set some boundaries to say you can do this, but not that. Otherwise, it gets, we can give, obviously, you want to give some freedom. We actually wanted to stay away a little bit from being too controlling and having like so many very detailed powers that it gets a bit overwhelming. I think, even though I think the Marvel Multiverse game now is a good game and well built, I think it has a power for everything. So if you're like Spider-Man, the web thing is like 12 powers or something, and it just, we didn't want that. We wanted to have something that gives more room for do what you want with this power to make you feel powerful, and that I want to do this, yeah, sure, you can do that, but then you of course have to set some limits, and that balance is something that we have been working with and still are working with quite a lot. So yeah, I mean, you can see some of the results obviously in the pregens, but it's also something that we're working on still for the full game with a full list of powers that you can have.
Yeah. And we're back with the Year Zero engine, which has been around for a while now, obviously created around the time of Mutant Year Zero and has gone through multiple iterations. I mean, it's like a Guess Who of Year Zero engine games behind me, really, including multiple Mutant games.
Oh, yeah, very nice. Yeah, I see that.
And I even have Mutant Hindenburg there in Swedish.
Oh, nice.
So because you haven't published it in English, because apparently we won't get it.
Maybe, yeah, we'll see. Yeah,
I think you have to provide us enough background with the rest of the universe, otherwise it won't make sense.
It's a very sort of niche thing that has a lot of backgrounds, and but you never know.
Yeah, we did once. Sorry, everyone, this is a bit of a digression, but we did once start playing Undergorgons of Tyrare. We did a little actual play of that, but it sadly fell apart. So I'd love to go back to that. But the whole universe is incredible.
For those of you watching this, that's like an earlier version of the Mutant RPG that was before our time.
Yeah,
so it's about 20 years ago.
Yeah, we did a blend of that because I think you kind of republished some of that.
Yeah, we did a reprint of some of those books.
Yeah. But the reason why I was asking this, he says, somehow managing to navigate himself back to the conversation, is that there's quite often a few tweaks here and there in Year Zero to make it work with each of your games. Have there been any significant things that you've added or adjusted for Invincible in order to make it work? Particularly as I think you're only using D6 dice again.
There's quite a few things that we've been tweaking, especially for this game, I think, because Superheroes does things also sort of in the rules and the mechanics that need to be a certain way, and that took quite a bit of tinkering. And it's D6s that we have. I mean, we did a few games that were used other types of dice. I mean, the Blade Runner and Twilight 2000 that had polyhedral dice instead, but then for the Electric State and Coriolis the Great Dark use all D6s. So it depends on the game. And we felt for this game, like grabbing a huge handful of dice and rolling them is sort of part of being, it suggests power, and there is something big happening, rolling lots of dice. So it felt right for this game to do that. We also increased like the level, because we did away with skills.
Okay.
Most of our Year Zero games have skills.
Yes.
But we felt that since we're adding powers, which are a big part of the game, and we are keeping talents and drawbacks, and then you have attributes. So we felt normally this is like a principle of game design that we have is that when you add things, you usually have to remove something else. Otherwise, you just get increased complexity for no real win. So, and we felt that to focus on attributes and powers and to some extent talents felt a better way to go, and then you could remove skills as a separate thing. But that also
Nice.
meant upping the scale of attributes. So
Yeah.
that scale goes from 1 to 12 now. It's normally
Wow.
like 1 to
Okay.
5 or something.
Yeah.
So you have a much, and that also to give that feeling of superpower. Like a normal person is like 1 to 3,
Yeah.
and then the scale continues to 12 for your most powerful superhero. So that's also part of getting that superhero feel into it. And the stunts is another thing, especially in combat,
Mm-hmm.
in close combat and also range, but close combat primarily you have stunts, and those stunts is when you roll extra sixes. We have that in other games as well, but here the stunts are really powerful and also more core part of the core game gameplay. So if you roll extra sixes when you sort of strike someone in close combat, that's
Mm-hmm.
really going to make things happen in a way. It's not just +1 damage. It's like they fly through a building. So it's
Yeah.
like that's where we put that kind of superhero effects of things.
That sounds really cool. And I like that notion that you're kind of increasing the abstraction for
Yeah,
everyday trivial tasks as well. So something, yeah, you'd normally roll 3 dice for a normal person, a muggle.
yeah,
But for a superhero, even if they're just going to go and, I don't know, climb a wall, it's so much easier for them that
yeah,
you get to roll 3 times as many dice to do that simple
yeah, pretty
action,
much.
making a cup of coffee
Yeah.
or something. Um, no,
Yeah,
that's really cool. And then obviously, yeah, as you said, when you add the additional abilities to it, then or
yeah.
your powers and stuff, then you end up doing even more, throwing more dice and still failing to get a 6.
That can happen,
Yeah,
which is sort of part of the thing,
yeah,
and then of course you have the pushing, which I think
yes,
increases your chances of success, and it
yeah,
also works pretty well for Invincible because that it's sort of a thing that people really push themselves to
they
the
do.
limit,
Yeah,
and so that mechanic feels very well sort of fitting
yeah.
for the the property and the comics.
And do you have like an element of somewhat more enhanced healing as well? Because I can imagine as a GM, one would be much more tempted, as we were talking about earlier, about how brutal this setting is, to really hurt your player characters quite a lot in the knowledge that they can recover generally somehow
Yeah.
to a point.
Yeah, I mean that is usually the case. I mean, in this game, yeah, I mean, as long as you don't get like a critical hit, which really hurts, then yeah, you can recover fairly quickly. But then you can also get these horrible critical injuries that could kill you or keep you sort of in a coma for a month. Not it not it doesn't happen all the time, but it's a possibility, and that's also sort of part of even a superhero can get hurt in this
Yeah,
game.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and do you feel that then you're targeting this to a particular demographic in terms of um, are you going to put an age restriction on it? I presume not, but maybe some recommendations.
Yeah, there's actually on the cover of the book 16 plus age recommendation. I mean, tabletop RPGs don't have like formal age limits like
Yeah,
movies do,
yeah,
but yeah, and actually, I think having that for if you're younger, I think you can actually play the game below 16 years of age.
yeah.
But I think just it's a good marker
It's a
to sort of
guideline. Yeah,
get is it to just if you see that it's like, oh, this is not like like your average kids superhero show. It's something different, and I think just having that age recommendation on the front cover kind of gets that message across.
I think so as well. We're seeing on the screen now is the standard edition of the core rule book, which
Yeah,
we'll look at the spreads as well in a second to have an idea of the layout. But I love how this immediately it's got those vibrant and bright colours, which are very much what the show is about. Um,
yeah,
there's a real contrast between how it looks and the content,
yeah.
which I think is really genius on behalf of the creators. And I really like that you guys have stuck with that. Um, the special edition on the right hand side is very special, isn't it? In terms of the
Yes,
production.
it's very cool. The graphic design is by Johan Noor, who does Morkborg. So
We love Johan.
maybe that carries over, and I think that's a good choice because he sort of nails the tone, I think, very well. It's got that bright colors of superheroes,
Yeah.
You have that. It's definitely there. It's not, but then there's a darker edge and a bloodier edge to it, and I think that really comes across in the design of especially the collector's edition, but actually on the
Yes.
logo of the standard edition as well, you have a bit of blood spatter and then the age recommendation to just sort of, oh, this is something off here. This is just not your average
Yeah.
playful, colorful superhero story. There's something else going on.
And is that the special edition, which is always the one that I am drawn to? Uh, I presume that's going to have a level of extra detail in terms of the cover. Would be like embossed and have spot UV
Yeah,
or
there
spot
is.
varnish and
I
that
mean,
sort
the
of
blood
stuff.
spatter will be printed in a different with what you call
Like spot varnish.
well, they're like a varnish. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it'll be like the blood will be more glossy
Yeah.
compared to the backdrop of the other colors. Yeah,
Amazing, amazing. And in terms of what we got inside, I really love the layout that you've gone for. It feels like every time Free League puts out a book, you reinvent a little bit how you're doing the layout. And I
yeah,
think ever since, I mean, I think Hindenburg, which obviously the Brits, or English speaking countries didn't really see, but since then, I think is when I kind of noticed that there was more attention being paid to the clarity and the layout, the thought of,
yeah.
about how things work. And we saw this also with your kind of more recent games. Every time it feels like there is something special
Yeah, I
happening.
mean, we have obviously some basic principles and ideas, but we also try to reinvent and make new things. And I think here, yeah, and like you said, in recent, I think we've gone a little bit more toward. I think a few years back, I think we've always done pretty books,
Yeah,
but I think we have also in the last few years also tried to still do pretty books, but also have them useful and focus a bit more on usability as well, and
yeah,
really try to get those two aspects together. And I think Johan did a great job here as well.
agreed.
I also
Yeah,
just a small detail here that I really enjoyed that was actually his idea is that in the middle spread there, there's like a couple of comic book panels straight from the comic book, and actually that was actually Adam who just picked some quotes, which we normally do. We have quotes from when in the Alien game we had quotes from Alien and
yeah,
which is nice just to sort of break up the page. But what Johan did is he didn't just put the quote in. He actually, because we have PDFs of all 144 comic book issues, they actually
yeah,
went in, picked out those where those quotes are, and used the full comic book panels instead of just the quotes. And I think that is a nice touch, but it really sort of elevates the whole thing. So I think it's just one small example, but I think he did a really good job with the layout.
yeah. Credit to Johan. He's a smart guy. He really does
He
have
is
a
a
really
very smart
sharp
guy.
eye for design.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
and yeah, well, I mean, we have an annual convention here in Nottingham in the UK, and he designed the logo for our
Oh yeah.
first,
Nice.
the image for the T-shirt for the first one,
Yeah.
and our ongoing logo. And yeah, couldn't be happier with that. He's just great. All the time in the
Yeah.
world for him and what he does. Tell me about the
And of course,
starters. Go on,
yeah,
sorry.
sorry, just I mean, of course, in the layout, you have to mention the art, of course, and we have most of the art is pulled directly from the pages of the comic book, which was it's a real
Nice.
treasure trove
Yeah.
of amazing art that we could use, obviously. So that's should be mentioned too.
Yeah, absolutely. And have you got any original art?
Some, yeah. I mean, especially the cover of the starter set is
Hmm.
original. And also we're doing, hopefully it's still not unlocked, but it probably will be soon. We're reprinting, or actually Skybound will be reprinting issue 1 of the comic book with a special limited edition cover, which features the family of the Graysons. Yeah, that one, exactly.
Yeah.
Playing the RPG, and that one is also original.
It's really clever that you've done that.
Yeah,
It's a lot of
it's
fun,
nice.
and I love that
Yeah.
it's still. I mean, it still like says Image Comics on it and stuff. I think it's a really nice touch. So
Yeah,
it just
no, it's
feels.
going to be printed by, so it's not, it's going to be exactly like the actual comic book, but it's a limited edition run. And so, yeah, and if we unlock it, everyone will get
I'll
this.
unlock
And it's
it.
a good starting point
It'll
if
happen.
you've never read the comic book, starting, with the issue 1. It's can't go
Yeah,
wrong with that.
yeah. And I've not read the comic book, so I'm deeply interested to see how how much parity there is between that
Right.
and the TV
I mean,
show. And
the animated show follows the comic fairly well, but there is some, like any adaptation, there are some differences. But I
yeah,
think, I mean, the core, the heart of the story is the same.
yeah, yeah, I need to get to that. I've got a big. So I've been collecting the latest version of Catwoman since that was launched,
Oh yeah,
and it's on like issue 70 something now, 78 or something. And I've had a lot of extra time lately, and my grand plan was to catch up. I'm on issue 4, Thomas.
right.
Yeah, it's terrible. I have no excuse
Yeah,
for this. You
yeah.
mentioned the starter set, and I'd love it if you could talk to us a little bit about what we have in that.
Mm. Yeah. No, there's a lot of
It looks
stuff
really
in
cool.
there. I mean, this is, I mentioned at the start that the whole game is inspired by the original Marvel Superheroes game. And I
Mm,
think the starter set is sort of, I think that comes through there. Like in that old game, there is a big city map, like a number of city blocks. And what I really enjoyed with the Marvel game, the old Marvel Superheroes by TSR, is that you have that city map. There you had these little triangular fold up figures,
mm,
but now we have cardboard standees instead. But they just
yeah,
have that feel of scale and being able to, stand on rooftops and fly between skyscrapers and smash, that whole that, and to be able to do that in is a lot of fun. And I think we captured that, and it's also something that happens in the Invincible comics. So it felt very, on brand for that. But it's also a nod to the old TSR game. So there's the map and the standees. Of course,
yeah,
there's an adventure called Metro Mayhem that Adam Bradford, my co-writer, wrote, and then condensed rules, pregens you can see there, initiative cards, which is fairly similar to what you see in other Year Zero games,
yeah.
but also social scene cards on the left there, and
Oh,
those are
awesome.
kind of new. Basically, it's actually a little bit like in Tales from the Loop, that between action scenes,
Yeah.
you have like personal scenes, and they're called social scenes in Invincible. So normally, not between every action scene, but necessarily, but you
Mm,
can. You're the idea is that you play an individual scene, or two characters can share a scene. That where you just explore your character, you have, you talk, you discuss something, maybe argue something that goes to your personal. You maybe you play as your civilian self
mm,
elsewhere, and that has a mechanical effect. Is that when you sort of heal or relieve stress
yeah.
and get your resolve back. So it has a mechanical effect as well, but it's also a way to get those social scenes and personal scenes into the game. And in the starter set, I mean, in the full game, a lot of that is left to the players to make up these scenes themselves. But also in published adventures, and this one in the starter set, you actually have like cue cards. So each card has two suggested scenes. It's like you can choose this one or that one, and both of them are on this card, just as a prompt to, because if you never played the game, you don't know the characters. Maybe it can help to get that prompt from the card. So those cards that you see on the left there are the social scene cards. So those are also in the starter set, and obviously you have the dice.
That's really cool. And those dice, actually, I do want to talk about those dice very quickly because there is something about these that I really appreciate. So, I mean, first of all, you've got the colors nailed down, right? I mean, obviously, you've been thinking very
Yeah.
carefully about Pantone here, um,
Yes.
and paying all those lovely Pantone royalties. But
Yes.
I need to call out that you've actually put the ones and the sixes on the symbol dice,
Yeah.
which I think is great. Particularly for newbies, but also just when you're playing quickly to remember which one's which. Sometimes it can be a
Yeah.
real pain, and I don't think many people do that very often. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
No, that's yeah. No, that helps. Yeah.
that's a little detail that goes a long way. And the symbols that we have on there, obviously, we've got the Invincible design, or
Yeah.
kind of an analogy to that on the six, and then the Viltrum Empire on the ones.
Yeah.
And is there a
It's just a
narrative?
little nod. I mean, if you don't know what they mean, that's fine. You can just
Yeah.
learn the symbols. But if you do know what they mean, and it's in the core book also, it's a little fun nod to things from the source material.
Yeah. And is there an impact if you roll ones on these dice?
Yeah, there is. I mean, normally, and this is fairly similar. Well, like some of the other games that we have, is that if you push a roll and you roll once, that they will reduce your resolve and
Right.
cause stress,
Yeah.
which can break you on that. So you can sort of, so that it's a push mechanic, that it's a risk reward thing, as in quite a few other games. I think it works in this one fairly well as well. That so it's if you push a roll, you re-roll, but then the ones will sort of hurt you and reduce your resolve score. And what's different maybe from some other games is that the resolve score in this game is also used to power extra effects with your powers. You can
Huh.
actually use those points for other things than just pushing rolls. You can also fly faster or other things like that in using your powers. So you
Hmm.
have to, those resolve points are a really important resource to manage in the game.
That's really cool, and that's going to go a long way to making it feel extra special, I think.
Yeah,
Um, Finally, in terms of these kind of preview shots, uh, I love the art that you've gone with for the screen. I
yeah,
think that's really cool. Um, Very vibrant, straight out of the comics.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's going to
that's
look
really
great,
nice.
when it's all printed and done.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Let's check out the campaign. It's going pretty well. There's not really much point in us
Yeah,
looking at how many people have backed it, because it will be a little while before we get this to air. But
right.
it's going very, very, very well indeed. And there's quite a lot to unpack here. There's an awful lot of information here. So we're not going to go through all of it, but I think it's worth
Yeah,
calling out some of these things. So bear with me a second. Um, so obviously we have the early access here. So backing this, you're going to get access to the beta PDFs pretty early on, which means that you can start investigating playing this and have the great
yeah.
opportunity. And it is wonderful to be able to give feedback as well, and improve.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah,
And I think what's we have done it some, not that often, but a few, I think once or twice before, is the free quick start. Yeah, so you can actually, you don't even have to wait for the full beta
yeah,
PDF. You can
yeah,
actually download a quick start with a short adventure, pre-generated characters and rules, and just download it and play right away, which we think is great to get people to actually see what they're getting early on.
yeah, absolutely. And we're certainly looking at that. And if we can get our scheduling, we're going to give that a play as well on the Dark Orbs. So
Nice.
very excited by that. Um, Obviously we've got touched on the rules, and you've got the core rule book and some the spreads that we've already looked at from there, and the collector's edition,
Yeah.
which I think is outstanding. It's really gorgeous. The starter set, the dice trays are really interesting. I was surprised to see the aspect ratio they're in, which is actually I prefer. To have them in a kind of a non-square layout, I think is a little bit
Right.
easier when you're sharing
Those
a
are That
table.
was a bit of an interesting, that was just a coincidence
Mm,
that a company called Fanroll, they make lots of dice and dice trays and things, and they actually already had made Invincible dice trays just
nice.
completely independently of us. It's a separate sort of licensed thing
Mm,
to make these kinds of accessories.
mm.
So we just talked to them at Gen Con and said, well, maybe we should, offer these. These are look great. We should have them in our Kickstarter. And then they said, sure. And then that's what we did.
Oh no, please don't sell more of our product.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that you're thinking already about the virtual tabletops. I know you have a strong
yeah.
relationship with all of these companies.
Yeah, we
That's
do,
great.
and that's really great. And
Yeah.
actually, the our developer for the Foundry module
Hmm.
offered to complete it, the system and a content module before the Kickstarter is over. So hopefully, in about a
Nice.
week, we
Yeah.
should have a playable Foundry system and module of the Quick Start, so you can actually
Great.
play that Foundry right away while the Kickstarter is still going.
So I need to dig out my Foundry license, is what you're saying.
I guess so. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
can't help you there. Yeah.
Is this somewhere?
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot with Alchemy, and it's got a lot of
Oh
potential. I
yeah,
don't think
I
it's
mean,
quite
there's
there
not
yet,
we
but
that's we don't want to. I mean, in this particular case, it was that developer offered, and we felt sure go
yeah,
for
of
it. But
course.
then
Yeah, yeah. Why
otherwise, we
not?
don't have. We try not to play favorites, so we
Yeah.
have a good relationship with all of the virtual tabletop platforms,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
offer the same content for all of them. That's sort of the idea, what we go with, and then they are add-ons in the Kickstarter because people enjoy different platforms, so we don't want to
Exactly.
choose one.
Yeah.
So basically, you can just pick what you want,
Yeah.
which platform you want, and we have those 4 which will be developed. So I think that's a good. We should cover. I mean, there are other VTTs out there, but I think those 4 are a good selection.
I agree.
Anyway.
I think that this is the main 4.
Yeah.
And you have different kinds of players tend to be on each of them as well. So
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. Yeah, it's great. And I like that you're going with all 4 of them, not just picking one and forcing people to go down that route.
Yeah.
Live plays. I haven't checked this out yet. I'm really looking forward to it.
It's quite fun. Yeah. It's always, it's interesting to see people playing a game that you're still in the middle of writing. So that's a bit scary, but they did a great job, I think.
It's a good opportunity for feedback as well.
They didn't even have the finished Quickstart. They had like a draft of the Quickstart. So that was impressive how they pulled that together. But, it should still be, I mean, it might be one rule here or there or something that might not be exactly as in the Quickstart, but it's close. And they did a really great job of conveying the feel of the comic book and the show and the game.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I don't think I've ever run an actual play where I was the GM and the rules were right anyway. So, I mean, this is part of the fun of being a GM, isn't it? It's you kind of go, I'm not quite sure, but we'll just do this. And that's fun.
Of course.
A bunch of stretch goals. And obviously, we are a fair way through and we've pretty much gotten there. We'll get there. By the time this has gone to YouTube, then I'm sure we'll be way past the 3 million crowns mark. Obviously, you can't really spoil too much, but is there anything in the stretch goals, even including the stretch goals that we've already done, that really excites you? Is there anything, you don't have to tell me what it is, but is there anything in the stretch goals that you're kind of really anticipating and really excited about that you haven't told us?
There is some things more, and some new. That we have some ideas for more bonus adventures that are really cool, and also something that quite a few backers have asked for, and that we would like to do is the solo mode. So that's on. We don't. That could come up if we get a chance to add a few extra stretch goals. That it's not impossible that could pop up there.
That'd be very cool. And we've got a bunch of, so we've got the rewards summary. We'll go through those the rewards in just a second. There are a number of add-ons, including many of your old products. I say old; they're all amazing.
Yeah.
And this is a point where I'm going to thank you as well. So this is a little bit of a segue, and I apologize for anyone who doesn't really have an interest in this, but seeing here that we have the One Ring and Blade Runner and Vesson and Electric State and Dragonbane, I do need to thank you. So next weekend, so weekend of the 4th of October in the UK, 2025, we're having our 3rd annual mini convention. In fact, there's only 1, maybe 2 tickets left, so I'm not calling for people to come and play, but please do come and play if you're interested. It's in Nottingham in the UK. And I need to thank you, Thomas, and the rest of your team, because you've sponsored the Oktoberfest for this year, and you've provided us with some amazing stuff. So we've got Tales from the Loop, we've got the One Ring Deluxe Limited Collector's Edition, which you very kindly signed, as well as Dragonbane core book as well. And so we have now the t-shirt for this year, and the theme we put out to our Discord members what theme they would like for this year's t-shirt, and they said we want B movies, science fiction B movies. And so we have here It Came from the Dark Orb, which is nice. A lot of fun. And of course on the back we have the beautiful Fria Ligan logo, as you've thanked us, you've supported us, and so thank you so much. It means the world to us.
Thank you.
And your kindness is helping us to keep this channel afloat. But that's to say that Tales from the Loop is an amazing game. Dragonbane, Versen, we love all of them. I still need to finish reading Coriolis, The Great Dark, but that's another example of where you've put loads of attention into the layout and readability, and it's great. But we'll go back to this wonderful game that we are here for, Invincible. And the team, obviously, we're looking at your good self, Adam Bradford, and we have a number of other wonderful people, Johan Nor, we've talked about as well. What is the the thing that you're most excited about, or would you be the most excited about as a player? Is there anything in terms of powers or what you would do, how you would build your character if you were to play
Yeah,
as a
there's a
player?
lot of that. I mean, just sort of trying out all the cool stunts that you can do. I think, and because whichever powers you have really is something that I would enjoy,
Mm,
and also just that kind of all out, no holds barred combat that you'll get in this game. I think it will be a lot of fun, and mixing that up with the social scenes and actually sort of playing those individual social scenes. I think that fairly those wide swings and a wide variety, I think between those two will be a lot of fun.
amazing, amazing. I did see, I had a flick through the Quickstart. I'm quite excited by how you've implemented flying, and you've got the three
Mm,
zones. And I
yeah,
don't know, some part of this reminded me of space combat in Coriolis. Um,
maybe, yeah. Now we had some ideas, but how do we do flying? I mean, how should we measure altitude in zones? We do that in some other games. Like
yeah,
that's not what superheroes do. They're sort of flying above street level or something, or they're like so far up nobody, they're basically
yeah,
in among the clouds, or they're in space.
yeah,
Okay, so that's the three levels. Those are
yeah,
the three altitudes. You're
yeah,
flying, or you're sky high, or you're in orbit. Basically,
yeah.
that you don't need any more than that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've got to say the scenes in Invincible in the cartoon with Alan are some of my favourites. So
Yeah.
the first time you kind of spend some time in space, just an
Yeah.
amazing NPC probably to have at the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
Um, there are a number of different pledge levels. My friends and compatriots over at the Dark Orb would straight away say that the Invincible bundle is the fill level, which is the one that comes with everything. You get the collector's edition and the standard editions. So you've got one
Yeah.
that you're going to keep and never open and will stay in shrink wrap. And then the one that you actually read and put down on the table. You get the starter
Something
set, the
like that.
GM screen, the dice, the rule book, the PDF and starter set, PDF for the
Yeah.
starter set and the rule book. I'll get there in the end. And an honourable mention, which is always good. But that's 2,000 crowns, so it's like what, £160 or something.
Mm. That's
And
the top one. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But it starts down with the digital, with the PDF for not a lot, like 15, £16. I'm doing
Mm.
these conversions in my head, so 20 quid.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
That sounds right. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, we should remember that the cost of producing this book is actually with the art, the layout, the writing. It's not with the printing.
Yeah.
So that's why a PDF shouldn't be £2 or £3, because actually
Yeah.
you're bearing a lot of the cost for creating a book is right here. I mean, obviously, when you're looking at a limited edition, then that kind of changes that quite a lot. But comparing this to a standard print edition, you're really covering the cost of development and trying to make sure that wonderful companies like 3D can keep the lights on and continue to develop amazing things. This has been amazing. Thank you so much, Thomas.
Thank you.
I do have one last question for you. Let me just
All right.
move us back to here. So my last question for you is: obviously, this is going really well, and we do have a goal for how successful this should be in order to succeed, which you've very much beaten already. But my question for you is, given how much work you all put in the office, at what point do you think you'll be able to say, do you know what, this campaign is still going, we still have X number of days left, but let's just relax a little bit, and it's a Friday afternoon, let's go and get fika, let's go and have a coffee, and instead of just
Yeah.
being in that zone and
Yeah.
just and working hard.
Oh, it's a very, very good question. I wish I had the answer. I think that's our, challenge and problem, maybe, or generally that reaching that position seems to be
Yeah,
very, very hard. Even if I think I can do that after like 5 minutes, I get another idea and run off to do something or do something.
damn
So
you product
yeah,
managers.
I haven't really reached that point yet in any campaign. So I'm afraid I doubt I will this time either.
So what you're saying is that in a couple of weeks' time, someone should bring the coffee and the pastries to you.
Why not? That would be great. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Thomas. It's been amazing.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate your time. All the best for the
Sure.
rest of the campaign, and we'll talk to you very soon, no doubt, about something new on the horizon.
Absolutely.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you everyone for watching. Please hit like and subscribe and all the comments. Go and check out Free League. Check out the Kickstarter. The link will be down below. Check out freeleaguepublishing.com, maybe. Something like that. Free League Pub. Try to remember now. What's your URL, Thomas? Publishing.com. I got it right.
Freeleaguepublishing.com. You got it. Yeah.
Sometimes I can do things properly. All right. Thank you ever so much, everyone. Until next time, yeah, keep playing, and I hope your dice rolls are way better than mine. Take care, everyone.
Bye.